company was called Auron. It's layer one, and now they have a new mission of reaching the vaults. Great to have you here, Beniamin.
Hello, Anna, and it's great to have this conversation.
So, can you tell us about your background and how did you generally get into crypto, into Web3?
I was absolutely fascinated by technology in general and technology startups because I thought out of all the things that you could do in life, it seemed like the leverage and positive impact that you could have with technology startups is generally unmatched. So I thought if there could be more breakthroughs in terms of technology that would have positive impact, I would love to see that. This is how I studied a lot of, let's say, fundamental technologies, then discovered crypto and blockchain. And it seemed to me like this was about to take off and potentially change the way we deal with finance, with money and so forth, and have a significant positive impact on the world. So then I decided to first join and contribute to some projects. Then I invested in a lot of projects for a few years, such that at some point I was essentially invested and up to date with everything that was being designed and written, and I knew basically all the important architectures. And then at that point it became clear that despite all the positive conversations, despite some of the startups, some fundamental problems were not being solved. And so this is when we began Elrond. We've essentially gathered a team with which we can literally build rockets and decided to tackle first scalability, just to make sure that we create a platform that can enable transaction, execution, and scaling at internet scale. Because it was obvious to us that while the benefits of blockchain architecture were great, unless you could scale this to internet scale, you would not be able to see the technology put to great use. So this is how we started Elrond, and then a lot of other things came after the start. So we're 5 years now since the initial start, and super excited to express and tell the story about the transformation from Elrond to Multiverse X and what's coming next.
And which year did you get into crypto and started working with different crypto projects?
I initially started looking into Bitcoin and everything that was being built in 2012, 2013.
Wow, that's early.
Yeah, very, very early. Then 2014, I was already part of some projects, just experimenting, learning, looking very closely at what was being created and built. And then 2016, 2017, I was basically already getting acquainted with all the architectures and everything that was being built very, very in detail. And at the end of 2017, we essentially started Elrond to really solve this scalability problem once and for all.
Yeah, you're one of the oldest scaling layer one solution, and back then they were not that many. And now we have like Solana, Avalanche, Nia, different layer two scaling solutions as well, different ZK rollups. So how did you differentiate, and what's your competitive advantages of Elrond?
Yes, so the key point for us has always been not only bringing a solution that has incremental benefits and improvements, but rather also bringing a solution that is essentially solving the problem once and for all, built on first principles. And so it was clear to us that the only way to scale dramatically and being more than 1000x improvement in throughput and transaction cost was to create a sharded architecture. We were the first one to demonstrate and bring one such architecture live in practice. But then beyond that, what became clear to us is that this is not enough. That you might solve the sharding part, you might solve the scaling part, but unless you find very simple and compelling interface such that users can interact with this technology without having to learn rocket science, we will not see hundreds of millions and billions of people actually joining. So this is why we initially created Mayar, and now we launched a super app that takes everything that we've built or everything that's being built within the ecosystem and simplifies the entire interaction such that everyone, wherever they may be, can interact with this technology, can use it for finance, can have fun, can have quests, can test all the applications. And then in this way, I believe that we not only have solved the performance problem, but we also address the UX problem in a way that is not being done in the market. And the end-to-end integration of the entire ecosystem puts us in a very, very special position to be able to execute, to be able to deliver features, and to be able to deliver, at the end of the day, products to the users that they love beyond any other product that they've seen in the space.
And can you tell more about your decision to rebrand to Multiverse 6? Why did you decide to focus on metaverse, NFTs?
The key point here is this. The transition and transformation from Elrond to Multiverse to the power of X resides in the key idea that as we look at the next 10, 20 years and what's coming, we identified a few key areas with very high fundamental impact. And so we said that it's clear that blockchain will be at the core of these new phases of development, these new innovations and so forth. And so the question is, how can you compress all this information and capture it in a way where it's clear that you will continue to be present in the physical world and expand within the physical world, but it's also clear that there's a completely new world just emerging, which is the metaverse world, where you'll have many, many worlds, in fact, that will expand very soon. So this idea, we believe, is best captured with the idea of the multiverse, because you have many layers, but they exist in a complementary state to extend and expand the really great things that we're doing and not to replace them. I do believe that, for instance, Meta has gone in a very wrong direction with just Meta, because they're focusing on just this new space rather than also tying it to the physical world and so forth. And then the power of X literally expresses how vast this entire space is going to become, that we're barely scratching the surface. And this universe, it's almost like you see the Big Bang unfolding. You've seen the initial moments, but then it's about billions of years that you're going to see unfolding in terms of progress and so forth. And this also then positions everything that we've built in a new light, because a DEX, an NFT marketplace, the wallets, other applications, and the super app, they are put in a completely different light, because within the metaverse, without a blockchain, you can really not have a metaverse. You don't have the structure, you don't have the rules, you don't have the interactions, and without a blockchain, any type of metaverse world is essentially just a game. Now, with the blockchain, you have the tools to really define rules and create an experience that is very similar and complementary to the experience we have in the physical world. And so with this new positioning, we've also unveiled not only the new products that we already build and that we reposition, but 3 completely new products: X Portal, X Fabric, and X Worlds, which all of them just expand on this vision and make it a reality today.
And can you tell us well about, you mentioned that you launched this app, super app, X Portal. Can you tell more about this? So as I understand, it's like your decentralized social media chat. And how do you plan to transfer Web2 users to your Web3 chat? There as well, like we have, for example, Lens Protocol, Mastodon, some other decentralized applications. What are your differences, and how? What's your plan to acquire the users to use it?
Yeah, so the whole point with the super app is precisely this, that this should be the portal to this new world. And it should, at its best, expand, bridge, and blur the lines between the world. Because I do believe that if you think about it, what we're doing, everything we're doing on the web boils down to just a few things. We're browsing and surfing, we're doing payments and stuff, and then we're chatting or interacting socially. So in this super app, you'll have everything related to finance, whether we're discussing about crypto, whether we're discussing about free fiat, whether we're discussing about a card, NFTs, all of that. That's one thing. Then you'll have a completely new way of interacting socially, whether it's end-to-end encrypted chat that has all these Web3 elements embedded into them, such that you can send crypto, send money, send NFTs in a much simpler and cooler way. Of course, you have a completely new layer of generative AI, where you create avatars and you make the first step of what the idea of the metaverse might become. You see yourself in a new light, you extend what you've built, and then very, very importantly, we also have a hub, which is essentially an app store within the app, such that you can not only do everything we've built and everything we've created, but then we showcase, just as with the Apple Store, for instance, all the really cool applications that exist in the ecosystem and give you even more things to do. Now, tying all of this together in a really cool, fun, playful way, where you have gamification, quests, missions, and all of that, does a great step for the entire ecosystem, because it simplifies the experience. Whereas you, in normal wallets or normal DeFi interaction, normal NFT interaction, you have to configure all these details before you get to experience stuff. With Exportal, we put an enormous amount of energy in simplifying, translating, and blurring the lines, such that normal users find this immediately interesting and exciting. And then, oh, by the way, they discovered that this is also a wallet, that there's a super cool card. And the idea of bridging the worlds is precisely this. Imagine that you enter with this app into a new metaverse world or event. You're there with friends, you earn some money, the money is crypto at first, but then you have a card which enables you to use this type of money in the physical world to buy yourself food, to buy yourself a pair of sneakers, and so forth. So I believe that this app compresses a lot of the things we really love and makes all of them very simple and very, very compelling. And we've seen a tremendous excitement from the community. We've had already several chains integrated, and so it's going to be a super app that we believe will be a very important strategic step in bringing us closer to that goal of onboarding 1 billion users. Because at the end of the day, it's not about how do we bring another 5, 10, hundreds of thousands and so forth, but rather what are the really strategic steps that enable us to address a really large market.
Is it for you as well generational aspect for the users of Metaverse? Because I guess...
Can you please repeat the question?
Is it as well generational aspect for the users of Metaverse and potential users of your app? Like, for example, probably more Gen Z are interested in buying all this new stuff.
This is precisely the thing. We believe that if you look at the different demographics, of course, it's very important to identify the most, let's say, key or strategic ones that could bring all the other ones in. And it seems like if you look at, let's say, the more older generation, or the not too old, but then secondary generation, those are people that love what we're doing, and it's great. But the crucial thing is to indeed get the Gen Z excited, interesting, because if they're in, then they're bringing their parents, that they're bringing their friends, that they're bringing a lot more other people, and we're excited to see them play with the app, and we believe the metaverse element will definitely appeal much more to them than some of the other things.
Yeah. And so recently you made the partnership with Tencent China on the Web3 expansion. Can you tell more
The key point is, of course, Tencent is an enormous company with a lot of branches. I think they have probably in their group 500 or 600 companies that do different things. So this is almost like an entire industry within one large conglomerate. So it's quite exciting to have conversations with companies like this that are still very active within the metaverse space, very active within the AI space, very active within the cloud infrastructure space. And so our entire conversation has been on the infrastructure. How do we get them in to help participate within the network, within the ecosystem? How do we get them in to explore some of the elements that we're discussing around AI, around metaverse? And this is not a thing that happens overnight. In fact, we've been in discussions for a very, very long time, but it's exciting and great to see a first step from someone like them that wants to be in the front line and test a sort of frontier of technology.
And do you have any other partnerships with big Web2 corporations lined up?
A lot. We've of course been working on a lot of these collaborations. It's taken a lot of time with some of them, but it's always great when something like this comes to fruition, and we expect to unveil new collaborations like this during the next period as we make progress and make sure we finalize them.
Great. And as well, currently different layer ones and as well layer twos are getting involved into privacy and zero knowledge proofs, and release as well the ZK EVM solutions we have as well.
Sure. I think there are two very strategic and important directions that we're going to unveil solution towards. The idea of sovereign shards or sovereign chains, which essentially enable you a very simple deployment of your own chain, defining your own rules, having all the benefits of a blockchain, but then controlling the definition of the rules in a way that suits your company, suits your brand, suits your team or initiative. That's one thing. And then the other thing is most of the other, let's say, layer ones or layer twos have had a very serious problem of scaling. So the necessity of ZKs being embedded has been really, really important because they could not scale otherwise. For us, we've been able to scale from day one just because we've thought a lot of the underlying architecture. But there are two important elements here that we are considering and will definitely integrate. The ZK zero-knowledge proofs are extremely important and crucial in terms of privacy, and we're going to have this integrated within our blockchain. We're probably going to announce something around this with regards to when it's going to potentially come live, with what type of release. But there's also a discussion related to ZK rollups, just because, again, these are new paths that just compound the scalability that we have on the underlying layer and just open up some new ways of interacting with these technologies with companies that don't really need all the, let's say, properties that the blockchain has and just want something very specialized that can take the, let's say, initial hashes and information, give them some properties that they need, and then enable them to scale in a way that's much cheaper, much more extensive. And I do believe that in a matter of 6 to 12 months, the entire conversation on ZK zero knowledge proofs and ZK rollups will literally be almost everywhere. So they'll be embedded just as you look right now at sharding and so forth. It's going to be very natural, and we're excited because we've researched this part a long time ago, and we're now in the process of seeing where this fits on the roadmap that we have ahead.
And how do you generally see as well the current market situation, both like for crypto as well NFTs? NFTs went like extremely down, the trading volumes and as well the activities in now we have as well regarding BTCs, specifically some big bets, for example, as for Balaji, that it may go up to $1 million in the next 90 days. What's your opinion on that?
From a macro standpoint, the market is at a very, very remarkable point in the sense that it almost looks like what's happening right now, if not managed correctly, could be almost like a follow-up systemic event like the pandemic and the war. So if it's not managed correctly, the first bank, Silicon Valley Bank collapsing, a few other banks getting closed, a few other banks just behind the scenes getting prepared to be acquired and so forth, could either be, let's say, an event where this is managed correctly and it's stopped, or if not managed correctly, it could become something to the extent of what Balaji has suggested, which is that a hyperinflation event unlike anything we've seen, let's say, in the last 30 or 50 years, which might make everything in crypto incomparably more interesting and exciting. So everything that has been discussed with the banks just shows how fragile the entire system is, and what banks and maybe the system has been trying to prevent, namely the adoption of crypto, the adoption of the applications and so forth, could in fact trigger a systemic crisis within the financial infrastructure. And if this happens, I expect perhaps adoption that would otherwise happen in 5 to 10 years to potentially be compressed to 6 months or 12 months, which would again create an enormous opportunity for the people just building and preparing the space and so forth. So it's very tricky. It can go in many directions. I hope it doesn't get as bad for all of the people, especially in the space and outside the space. But if something happens, there's a tremendous opportunity for the crypto space and for Multiverse X, precisely with the super app, precisely with some of the other products that we built, that in such an environment will become infinitely more valuable and immediately accessible.
And can you share as well some upcoming plans for the development of Multiverse X?
Yes. So during the last 6 months, we've had the most important conference of Elrond at that point and Elrond at that point. That the conference was called X Day. It was here in Paris. We've had 2 ministers of countries, all the really exciting startups within the ecosystem. And at that point, we presented the transformation of Elrond to Multiverse X. But we've also introduced a series of products that were about to be launched every, let's say, the first 2 every 1 month, and then a few of them every 15 days, which was a very, very crazy schedule because we've put a lot of energy to making this happen. And now we have another, let's say, 4 or 5 products that are going to be unveiled during the next period, maybe something like 1 a month. But then there's also this hyper growth period that we're beginning, and we're going to probably begin starting with next week, where we're going to take everything within the ecosystem, put it into a master roadmap where not only us, but then all the startups are just laying out the most exciting things that are about to happen. And then we make sure that we deliver them during the next period with the speed and resourcefulness that's unmatched. So the next 3 to 6 months, but then also the next few years will be very, very important in terms of adoption, because the super app is just kickstarting this new wave of adoption with several growth campaigns within several countries to Gen Z and some of the other demographics, but then also scaling that beyond to some of the other products that are going to come live, like X Fabric, X Worlds, X money, with which we process merchants, integrations, and crypto flows, and X money fiat, where we essentially process all the fiat elements to be onboarded in this new Web3 space. So a lot of things, and we're very excited to be able to push them forward and live to this period where things might accelerate even more than we thought.
Yes, it's great. So we'll follow more updates from you. Thank you for such interesting interview.
Thank you very much, and happy to share.